1983. One missing girl. 4 days later, a trapper finds her body. Over 100 suspects were checked. More than 40 years passed. The case went cold. Twice. And then, a single DNA machine did what 4 decades of investigation couldn't. A 16-year-old girl left home one morning to catch her school bus and never came back. Her killer? Everyone knew his name. Everyone liked him. And until the truth finally surfaced, no one had a clue. Flint, Michigan, 1983. A General Motors town, full of factory jobs, decent neighborhoods, a city that was working and earning. Crime wasn't common here. In this town lived Sherry Jo Elliott with her mother Joyce and stepfather Robert.
Sherry Elliott wasn't too outgoing. When she was little, she didn't venture out too much. Joyce Schultz, I'm her mother. When she was little, she just loved to color. When she was like 2 years old, we got her a great big thick coloring book, and she colored all of that.
Sherry Jo, she was a sweetheart. We're not supposed to have a favorite niece or nephew. She's basically the favorite of most people in the family. But she was a loving child, very respectful.
She loved to visit with her cousins when she went to her dad's. She and her dad, we divorced in '72, and so she'd go back and forth, visit her dad, and then come home, and it was good.
Sherry was so cautious that once, when a couple stopped to ask for directions in an unfamiliar spot, it was her friend who walked up to the car, not Sherry. In her mother's words, she would never go near a stranger's car. Her after-school routine was fixed. Come home, do her nails, watch The Young and the Restless, and eat the frozen yogurt Joyce made her. A completely normal, safe, small life. November 16th, 1983, 6:45 in the morning. It was a little cold that day. Joyce had told Sherry to dress warm. She had to walk 2 blocks to the bus stop.
She had to walk like 2 blocks to the bus stop. One morning she was wanting to leave early, and I said, "No, Sherry, it's not safe." I said, "I don't want a police come knocking on my door and tell her that you're murdered or raped." So that morning she said, "Okay, love you." And
those were the last words she ever said to her mother. Sherry left the house. She never made it to the school bus. By noon, Joyce's husband, Bob, told her Sherry hadn't come home. Evening came, night came, still nothing. Joyce called Sherry's father.
About noon, my husband come to where I was working, and he said that Sherry didn't come home.
He hadn't heard from her either. The police were called.
The police, and they said, "Oh, well, she's a teenager, she's run away." I said, "No, she didn't." I said, "Because there's nothing missing. She would never go with just the clothes on her back. She would never do that."
But by protocol, the police initially treated it as a runaway case and told her to wait. Sherry's auntie packed her bags and came to Flint. They had to stay in a motel.
Said, "Oh, she's just probably ran off with her friends." I said, "Sherry Jo would not do that. She would not leave and not tell anybody." So I packed up my stuff and came down to Flint, and we got a motel down there. He helped pass out flyers. We'd go out to eat, and I couldn't eat. I lost 10 pounds that week, because every time we'd go into a restaurant, I'd think, "Is Sherry eating? I wonder if she's eating." It was just a really bad week. You see a guy walk in the restaurant, or just a guy walking down the street. Is that him? Is he the one that took Sherry?
Family and friends searched dumpsters, combed through alleys. Police finally entered her into the missing person system. An NCIC entry, local news coverage, and Crime Stoppers even put out a reward. But no leads came in, no calls. 4 days after she vanished, in Saginaw County, about 15 miles north of Flint, near Muller Road, a local trapper was checking his traps. He found something in a water-filled ditch. Sherry Jo's body, face down in the water.
Was very little evidence. If you can imagine, her body was just off the roadway into the ditch, so it was, I would say, a lack of attempt to hide the body, more of a an attempt to just get rid of the body. So pushed down into the ditch. Her pants were unbuckled. They guessed that she potentially could have been sexually assaulted, and it was obvious she was shot. It's a relatively small crime scene, just the side of the road there. They didn't find a bullet, they didn't find anything else. So property, as far as evidence goes, is very limited. She walked away from home, so basically she just had the clothes that were on her back.
A detective knocked on Joyce's door one Sunday morning, holding Sherry's necklace in his hand.
She wore one of my necklaces to school, and he had the necklace in his hand. And he said, well, is that Sherry's? I said, yeah, this is Sherry's. And she said, well, she's dead. And she'd been shot 4 times and raped. And there's no easy way to say that. She was my only daughter.
The funeral was held. The family had a friend watch everyone who came in case the killer himself showed up to admire his own handiwork. The investigation began. Police chased down thousands of tips. One witness claimed he saw Sherry get into a yellow Camaro. Police tracked down nearly every yellow Camaro in the city. Weeks of work, and it turned out the witness was lying. Another tip pointed to a white van. Investigators' suspicion fell on her stepfather, Robert, since statistically, family members are often the prime suspects in these cases. Robert had been the last person to see Sherry alive. His DNA was taken. He was asked to take a polygraph and gave inconsistent answers in his story. Joyce was even pressured into making a surreptitious phone call to her husband, hoping to record a confession. Nothing came of it.
I accused my husband of doing that because he was a stepfather. You know, and you always go to family, and I tried to tell him, I said, there's no way he would hurt her. He wouldn't hurt any child. He was always cautious, and he was upset that they were trying to prove that he did it. It was really hard.
In 1983, DNA testing was still in its infancy. Only direct one-to-one comparisons were possible. No database existed yet. Investigators took DNA from everyone they interviewed. Some gave it voluntarily, others required a search warrant. Nothing matched.
The detectives over the years have taken about 123 DNA samples. When this happened in '83, DNA really wasn't a thing then. The lab could do a direct match of 1-to-1, but it wasn't like today where we could do some sort of genetic genealogy and come up with a suspect. And so they matched, or tried to match, almost everyone they came in contact with, interviewed anyone that would voluntarily supply, and some that didn't, and they ended up getting search warrants for their DNA, and unfortunately nothing matched.
The years went by. The leads dried up. By the mid-1980s, the case had officially gone cold.
There were thousands and thousands of leads, and they tried to follow up on all those tips. Eventually, the leads just dried up, and the case went cold from there.
For Joyce, every day was a battle. For years, she'd hear Sherry's voice in her dreams.
I'd have nightmares of her saying, Mom, why haven't you found me? I had that for a long time.
In 2002, the Michigan State Police formed a new violent crime task force and reopened the case. All the old leads were checked again. The Camaro, the white van, the stepfather, everything. Over 100 people's DNA was compared again. A sample was even sent to the National CODIS database. Still, no match. At one point, Joyce was so exhausted she told the detectives plainly,
I said, I can't do this anymore, not unless you got something new to ask me. I said, I can't do it. I said, you put me right back to where I was when she first died. I said, I can't go back there, and she wouldn't want me to go back there. And so I said, if you don't have anything new to ask me, please don't.
In 2002,
the case went cold again, this time for much longer.
I used to think if you met a murderer, you'd know they were a murderer. But criminals that get away with a crime for 40 plus years, they're able to hide the fact that they are this monster.
2022, Sergeant William Art gets a phone call from a Border Patrol agent at an airport in Utah. A former neighbor of Sherry's had been caught using a fake identity. He'd been living under a false name for 16 years. Detective Art remembered why this same person had been interviewed in the case before and had left Michigan shortly after Sherry's murder. A search warrant was obtained, a DNA sample taken. It didn't match. But that moment planted a seed in Detective Art's mind.
Not that it was closed, but reinvestigated, or at least taken another look at, given the technology that we have nowadays. We tried to be as surreptitious as possible. I didn't really want Joyce to know or the family to know. We were, again, reopening this wound for them. Over the years, these files just got put in boxes. Tens of thousands of pages from 20 prior detectives, and it would take me years to sort that out. We started a relationship with Western Michigan University. We took this case down there, and the students were able to organize this case for us. The students are cleared and background checks through Michigan State Police. We worked with the students to determine what was useful and not useful, to get everything on a digital platform, and they did a phenomenal job.
Late 2025, Michigan State Police reached out to a forensic genetic genealogy company, Aram. This was the same company that specialized in identifying suspects in cold cases from unidentified DNA. Detective Art figured,
I felt that Othram could be beneficial by sending this to them, at least trying. We had nothing to lose at this point. We had, 40 years of nothing.
February 2025, a piece of evidence from this case was sent to Othram. It contained semen DNA that was found on a sanitary napkin that Sherry Jo was wearing that day.
Aram's team assessed the DNA's quality and quantity. 40 years old, somewhat degraded, but good enough to work with.
The quality of the DNA, you could imagine in the decades since 1983, the DNA is probably not in the pristine shape it was when it was originally deposited at the crime scene. So quality always plays a factor in these older cases. There's also the consideration of whether there is one contributor or multiple contributors. And we're always cognizant of non-human sources, bacteria, other things that have DNA that could have also deposited onto that evidence.
Forensic genome sequencing produced a DNA profile, hundreds of thousands of genetic markers. This doesn't just look for a direct match. It can tell you where in the world someone's ancestors came from, and through genetic genealogy, trace a path to their living relatives.
I think that's something people don't understand. They say, if a case was cold for 40 years, why are you rushing now? In fact, that's when you should be rushing to get an answer, because the people that are the most affected by those answers are often gone.
When a case is that old, the late 70s, early 80s, that's that edge where people don't live forever, and you don't want to solve a case and deliver those answers when everyone's passed.
Sherry's dad, he is dealing with dementia at this point. Her stepfather is no longer around. It is a rush. It's a rush against time to give people the truth.
Is our forensic process to translate that physical DNA evidence into a DNA profile. Our profile consists of hundreds of thousands of markers called single nucleotide polymorphisms. These hundreds of thousands of markers can tell us a lot about the person we're looking for.
The search began, and the first lead surfaced. An elderly woman in Wichita, Kansas, who turned out to be a distant relative of the suspect. But there was a major problem. She had 79 grandchildren. In Detective Art's words,
there are dozens of grandchildren that we need to consider as we look to see if any can be excluded, and we can further narrow the search for the likely suspect who's left the unknown DNA at the crime scene.
The team flew to Kansas. They met with the woman and asked for a DNA sample.
Sweet old lady. We did ask for a DNA sample, which she provided. She called her son over. He provided a voluntary sample too. So we were able to send those two samples to Othram.
From there, we begin to do the genetic genealogy work. It's not done in isolation. It's done with Bill at the Michigan State Police.
It took us months. In fact, we utilized the Western students doing open source searches, and us, my partner and I, working diligently trying to figure out if there was a Michigan connection.
Eventually, the pieces began to fit. By October 2025, a name emerged that matched both the genetics and the investigation: Ronnie Collins.
Law enforcement went to find him and talk to him. He was 75. He would have been in his early 30s at the time of the crime, so that fit. And he was definitely in the area at the time of the crime.
I just simply wanted to talk to him at that point. We spoke over the phone a couple of times. He kind of put me off over the holidays, and then we agreed to meet in early January of 2026. I had no intention of arresting Mr. Collins. It was just simply an interview. I waited, set up for the interview, waited around. He never showed up. Early February, I got a search warrant for his DNA. I tried to call him multiple times and he would never call me back or answer. I sought a search warrant through the court for his DNA. My partner and I went to his house, and once we contacted his current wife, she told us that the day the interview was supposed to happen, Ronnie Collins committed suicide.
After his autopsy, a DNA test was run, and the CODIS system confirmed the match. Beyond a doubt, Ronnie Collins was the man who raped and murdered Sherry Jo Elliott in 1983. Detective Art believes Ronnie chose suicide because he knew there was no escaping the DNA evidence, and he didn't want to go to prison, especially since he'd spent his career working inside one. Detective Art called Joyce. It's confirmed he did it. Joyce's response was simple.
Joyce and the family have been through multiple investigators over the years, and so I wanted to see what the results were from Othram before I reached out to the family and to Joyce. And so if we had nothing, Joyce would have never known that I even touched this case.
Detective Art called me. He said, it's confirmed he did do it. He says, knowing this, how is that going to affect you? I said, it's not going to, nothing's changed. I still can't hug her. I still can't tell her I love her. I said, so nothing's changed. It's good. It's still the same.
Investigators still believe Ronnie may not have acted alone in his history of violence. Back in 1969, two sisters, the Hobley and Spencer girls, disappeared from Moscota under a similar pattern. Halloween, last seen getting into a white van. Ronnie was performing with his band in that same area that very weekend, but their bodies were never found, so the investigation couldn't move forward.
Now I know who murdered her, and I know he's not going to hurt anybody else. But who knows what he did before that? You know, how many other people?
At least in my experience, you don't just go abduct, rape, and kill on your very first occasion. It starts with some type of an assault maybe and progresses into a homicide. Typically that doesn't just happen on the very first account. It may, and it may have in this case, but it's unlikely.
I think you still got bodies out there. Like there was 2 girls that come up missing in '69.
With Ronnie, we suspect him in another cold case that happened to 2 girls that lived in Oscoda. Hobley Spencer is their last names. Similar situation where it was Halloween, they had left school early, and the last accounts were they were picked up by a person in a white van. The fact of the white van and Ronnie Collins played in a band on that weekend in Oscoda makes him a viable suspect. Unfortunately, we don't have the girls' bodies to be able to continue the investigation.
It took 43 years for Sherry Jo Elliott to get justice. Her stepfather, Robert, had already passed away before this day came, never knowing he'd been cleared for good. Her biological father is now battling dementia. He may never fully understand that the case has been solved, but her mother, Joyce, is alive to hear it.
Sherry deserved a life. She deserved children. That was all taken away from her. She was a phenomenal child. God got an angel when he got her.
She was a sweetheart. She was my one and only daughter. It just ripped my heart out. Detective Art asked me if I would do this, and I said yes. So if it gives anybody some hope, then I hope that helps them.